So here's a look at the Smarty Jones Stakes, which is one of our first Derby preps of the year for the newly minted 3-year-olds. It's the first of 4 Derby preps on Oaklawn's meet, and important to note that they've extended the distance in this one from a mile to a mile and a 16th. So it isn't as kind to front runners as it was in the past, because at Oaklawn you do have that short stretch. So horses on the front end have a little bit of an edge. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're looking at this race. Just looking at the field, we'll go through them one by one. Informed Patriot has a lot of trouble marshaling his speed, in my opinion, and moving up in the distance, I don't know that necessarily is going to help this horse. He is trained by Steve Asmussen, and he does have a little bit of quality, but you will note in this field there is a fairly big gulf speed figure-wise from the best to then there's sort of a middling group in there. So this one hasn't shown necessarily that he can that he can control his speed. So I look for him to be an early pace presence, but I don't think he's going to be much else. Maybe can hang on underneath for a slice. Mystic Dan ran a really big figure 2 back, but by Golden Sense, 2 turns probably isn't what this one wants, and I think he demonstrated that in the last race. So I think he'll probably be up on or near the lead, but I don't expect him to be there in the finish. Fidget is a Brad Cox trainee, so we, of course, have to take them seriously. But one thing I have noted about Brad Cox is that when he does send horses to Indiana Grand, they generally don't do terribly well when they have to step up in class. This one has a little bit of quality and has the right to get better in the next start, but I don't think can progress enough to factor in this race. You also note Gettysburg Address is also trained by Brad Cox, but the difference being is I think this one is it has a little bit of an edge here in that the blinkers are coming off. Brad Cox is 31% when he takes the blinkers off for 3-year-olds. The last race was in the mud. He's by constitution, so I don't think we can use that as an excuse. The problem was I think he was just up on the lead, had a couple others to deal with. Learning how to take back, taking the blinkers off, if he can be a little more patient. I think this one can perhaps progress and factor in this race, though I'm not sure that he has enough to win it. Just Steel has the class edge over the rest of this field. He's, Wayne Lukas does, he loves to run them, and this one's had quite a few races. What I really like about Just Steel is, if you watch the last 2 races, the thing about him early in his career, if you go back to the Hopeful and also his early starts, he was very keen to be on the lead. And obviously, as the distances get longer, sometimes that can be an impediment. What I've noticed in the last couple races is that Lukas is really working hard to train this horse how to rate. If you go 2 back, you'll note Just Steel was pretty rank in a key race with Otto the Conqueror and Anna Marie, who both came back to win. And he was pretty rank, and I think the reason is that Lukas is trying to teach him how to rate, and it paid off in the Ed Brown in the next start, where he was a lot more under control, had plenty left in the stretch, and won the Ed Brown. Now, granted, that was 1 turn, but I think the message is clear, is that he is trying to get this one and has successfully taught him how to rate. He does have the pedigree to go 2 turns. I'm not worried about that. And I think he's got a speed and class edge over the rest of this field. I like Just Steel in this spot. Catching Freedom had all kinds of traffic in his last race and just had nowhere to go, but there was clearly plenty of horse left. I think 2 turns is exactly what this horse wants. This is another Brad Cox, and I think this one looks awful good here. Should be coming just off the horses up on the lead, and I really think this race is between him and Just Steel to win. I'm going to give Catching Freedom a little bit of the edge because he's firing fresh, and that he won't be quite as close to the pace as perhaps Just Steel will be. And I think maybe he'll have more in the tank late. Laganos is one that looks pretty good. I was trying to see if perhaps the reason for the last start was maybe he was up a little too close to the lead, and maybe they want to take this one back a little bit. The next race he came out, or the one prior to that, he ran basically the same race. So I don't know that it's a question of changing tactics or whatnot, but he just looks a little bit of a cut below the top two here. I think this is a good horse. I think he'll rate kindly and should be coming late, but I don't think he's got quite the top end that Catching Freedom or Just Steel have. Mo Winning is coming off a maiden race where he didn't really beat very much, and Ron Moquette is 0 for the meet so far, and I think it would be a really big long shot for this one to have any chance. It's not... Forget, I'm sorry if I missed the trainer, but Chaperone, I believe, is trained by Ron Moquette. He just isn't good enough. I think he's demonstrated that. He's got a lot of work to do to get better. But if he is going to come late, then perhaps he can clunk up and maybe get a piece of the try of the Super. But I think that's the extent of it. At 30-1, that would be the only consideration. Now, I want to point something out that I don't normally do, but I didn't have the odds, the morning line for this one, so I made my own. And for those of you who don't make your own line, I'd highly encourage you to do so. It's an excellent way to plan your wagering and identify value, and that's very important. So looking at these odds, I have Just Steel as the likely favorite, and I think he's deserving at 2-1, with Catching Freedom second choice at 3-1. And again, want to stress, that's why I have my on the top. These are my odds. This is not the morning line. So you can use it as comparison when the morning line comes out. So of this group, we're going to use Gettysburg Address and Just Steel as the pace pressers. I think will be in good position. Just Steel getting the edge. And then we're going to use Catching Freedom and Laganos. Catching Freedom, I think, is a very strong win candidate. Laganos I consider more for under. So if we look at our wagering strategy, if you can get 3-1 or better on Catching Freedom, which I don't think will likely happen, then I would bet him to win. I think he looks pretty good to me and is moving in the right direction. He and Just Steel, to me, are the class of this field. So I would box them in an exacta, and then I would key box Catching Freedom with 3, 6, and 7. That way, if you do get Catching Freedom on top, likely you're going to double up in your exactas. For the trifecta, I'd use 2-7 with 2-7 with 3-6, and then 2-7 with 3-6 with 2-7. I think those are pretty safe bets to come in. And then I don't want to go crazy on a superfecta, but I think you can certainly fashion one. So I'd go 2-7, 2-7 with 1-3-6 with 1-3-6-8. If you want to throw in a couple of 10 centers there, I don't know how much it's going to pay. It's going to be a little chalky on the top. But if perhaps you can get Informed Patriot or even Chaperone into third, maybe you want to throw him up there. I just sort of use that as kind of a template for what I consider to be a fair superfecta here. So Catching Freedom, the one I think to beat, followed very closely by Just Steel, and I really think it's one of those two who will win this race. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy. I think it's going to be a pretty good race. Always exciting to start the year with start the Derby Trail right. And if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe, and we very much appreciate it. Again, I'm going to wish you a happy new year. Let's make 24 a good one. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.